Hi, I'm Derek Ashong, and you are now in The Stream, a social media community with its own daily TV show. We're bringing you stories that are ongoing, global, and sourced from social media. Today, Sudan was Africa's largest country, and now it's two separate nations. Will the official division help to heal decades of animosity? And could a milk boycott be the beginning of a culture of dissent in Saudi Arabia? Our digital producer, Ahmed Shihab al-Din, is here with your feedback, as always. Joining us on the couch today is Saudi blogger Ahmed Al-Umran. Through his Saudi Genes blog, he writes about social and political issues in the kingdom. Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you here today. What kind of issues do you cover specifically?
Well, I write mainly about political and social issues in Saudi Arabia, but I try to focus more on human rights and women's rights and freedom of expression issues, because these kind of issues usually don't get a lot of coverage in the local media because of censorship and restrictions on what you can and can't say.
We've seen something like a spate of public activism in Saudi lately. Do you think that there's real change happening on the ground?
Well, I think the country has been changing for the past few years, but the problem is the change in the country has been going on really slowly, and this slow pace of change is leaving me and a lot of young people in Saudi Arabia really frustrated, because they wanted to see their country change faster, and with everything that is happening in the region now, with revolutions happening around them, they feel inspired and they feel they just want to do the same.
Well, I'm really interested to get some of your thoughts on our second story today, because it's about Saudi Arabia, and we're really inspired to have you here. Thanks for joining us. We also want to know what stories you are following. Tweet them to us using the hashtag AJStream.
Hi, I'm Sama Jama from Iraq. I'm studying computer engineering. Nice to be in the United States. Now, I'm in the stream.
After decades of civil war and the loss of more than 2 million lives, South Sudan celebrated independence from its former government in Khartoum on Saturday. Southern Sudanese see themselves as ethnically and religiously distinct from the mostly Arab and Muslim north. These differences, combined with years of war, have led not just to political discord, but to deeply felt resentment and even hatred between some peoples on both sides of the new border. I want to show you for a minute a particular website that is salient to our conversation today. If you'll take a look at this, there's a web project that hopes to start healing some of these wounds. It's called Love from Sudan, and the idea is for Sudanese from the north to record video messages for their former countrymen who are now citizens of South Sudan. The project has been met with skepticism on both sides, but it's also launched an honest online conversation about the division of Sudan. Let's take a look at a clip of a video from the team that made Love from Sudan. This is actually the Love from Sudan video.
Yo, South Sudan. I got nothing but love for you, man. Take it easy.
Hello, I wish you all a prosperous life in your new country and hope that your leaders will be wiser than ours here in the north. Good luck to you all. Peace and love from Khartoum.
Republic of South Sudan, celebrate.
نبارك للإخوة الجنوبيين استقلال الجنوب ونقول لهم إن شاء الله نسمع عنكم كل خير.
What I wanted to say is, it's a shame that they're not there. They're not one country. We're not one country anymore, and it's a shame. But you know what? It happened democratically, and I'm really happy, and I feel proud that it worked out this way. At the same time, I'm feeling sad, but I still hope for the better. I still hope that that both of us prosper and we continue being brothers and sisters, maybe in business, if not in that. So, congratulations.
Now joining us to discuss this is Mo Al-Zubair, the creator of Love from Sudan. Mo was born in El Damar, Sudan, and describes himself as a social diplomat. Also joining us today is Jaja, a blogger who traces her roots to southern Sudan. We're concealing her identity for safety reasons. Welcome both of you to the stream. Mo, I want to begin with you. We've seen some elements of this project. Some people have said that where was this sort of support prior to the partition of the country? What is your response to that?
There is no easy response to that. I think we all failed to communicate with one another. I think we all bear that responsibility, but I don't think it's ever too late. And initiatives like this are just the beginning of opening lines of communication, not to recover or go back to uniting, but to move forward, to have a better beginning for a new South Sudan and a new Sudan as well.
Now, Jaja, I want to actually get your thoughts on this point as well, because some people we heard in the video expressed some sadness that the country was partitioning. Do you believe that there's a possibility of reconciliation at a future date, or what kind of future do you imagine for the two countries?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me on the show. And I don't think that there would actually be a reconciliation between the two countries in terms of having a one Sudan, but there'd be continuous cultural exchanges between North and South Sudan in terms of business and other projects.
Okay. Ahmed, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, Mo, directly, do you think it might be somewhat naive, while a lot of people might applaud your efforts for creating the site, that, you know, this kind of video message and this kind of platform could really heal the rift between the South and the North?
I don't think the purpose of the video message is to heal a rift. I think the point is to start a conversation, and in that I think we're slowly succeeding.
Now, Mo, I'm also curious. Do you feel that some of these differences? You know, it seems that the South, the presidency is offering citizenship to any Northerners that would like to participate, but President Bashir of Sudan is revoking the citizenship of Southern Sudanese. Why do you think the government is taking that stance?
Well, I can't speak for the government, and I'm not really in connection with any of their thought or what they're thinking. But I think part of it goes back to saying, and this is, I was watching the Heart Talk on BBC with Bashir, and what he was saying was, well, they voted. We asked them, do you want to stay with us or not? And they voted to not. So I don't understand why they want to remain in Sudan if they don't want to be a part of it. And that's the rationale behind it, I think.
And now to you, Jaja, on that same front, you know, obviously we've seen that a lot of people are moving back to Southern Sudan, but their country is lacking in resources. How realistic is it going to be that those people will find the kind of freedom or opportunity that they may have been hoping for when they took those votes?
Well, I really think at this time and point, the government of South Sudan would be, allocating different posts for returnees and helping them integrate back into the society and the community as well. I mean, you have a lot of Sudanese who lived in the diaspora, as well as those who have been born and bred in Khartoum. So just going back, there has to be a whole reintegration before that they can start to actually develop the country, I'd say.
Ahmed, I'm actually interested to get your thoughts on this. I mean, you've got the newest country being created, but you had one nation that had significant resources. You have two nations that are potentially detrimentally affected by the fact that they've now split. What's your take on the possibilities for the future?
Well, as Mo said, you know, you cannot erase these years of wars and mistrust simply overnight. It will take time for these wounds to heal and to have like real constructive relationship between the two nations. And we will see if the Northern government is serious about what they said, supporting the new government and the new country and helping them to build their future.
Now, I want to get one more question actually before we go get some more feedback from our audience. Mo, this one is to you. There's still some existing concerns about the Blue Nile region, about South Kordofan, about Abyei. Do you believe that there's going to be a peaceful resolution, or that we can expect to see more violence in the region?
I don't know if my view is a popular one, but my view is, as long as the United States and Western governments and the European Union continue to exert pressure on the Sudanese government and reward rebel groups, then I don't think this is going to end well. And the problem is the people are caught in the middle. It's almost like being caught in a gang war, where the rebels are not the good guys and the government is not the good guy either. And unfortunately, one group is being backed and the other is stronger on the ground, and it just doesn't make sense. And the only people who end up losing are the people who have nothing to do with anything. You have a government who seems to be insistent and determined to align itself with the Arab world, while the rest of the Arab world appears to reject it, but offers lip service at best. And you have a country that's made up of so many different ethnicities and peoples, and it just, I really don't understand why there's this desire to become a part of a world that doesn't seem to really want you. And as long as we continue to do that, I don't see a bright future.
I want to bring in some comments from our audience. Ahmed's got a couple of interesting tweets that I think we can apply to Jaja.
Yeah, Jaja, you know, I don't want to be too pessimistic, but, you know, while Bella Behold Online is saying the video will facilitate healing at some level, it's a great step. You know, Discourse Bolus is saying showing love to South Sudan is good, but it's far too late. Should have come much earlier. So just quickly to you, do you think South Sudan in the future could ever be part of a greater Sudan? And very quickly, with the economic situation in the north, do you think that Khartoum's asking of U.S. sanctions to end is a good measure, a good step?
I would say I don't think there would be reconciliation in the future. I mean, this has been something that has been going on for many years. To many South Sudanese, they see this as their official independence from colonial rule. And in terms of the economic growth of Khartoum, and the getting rid of the sanctions, I do think that Khartoum would need to get rid of the sanctions in terms of, I mean, it would help them a lot in terms of trade and in banking and many other fields.
Jaja, we're going to leave it at that. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Mo, for also giving your insights on what's happening in Sudan and South Sudan now.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Now, you can follow this story on our website, stream.aljazeera.com. You're going to find more video and images there and get more detail about this particular story of what is happening in the Sudan.
So we always ask you to tweet your stories to us, and today Amuna in Paris shared hers. So let me just give you the backstory quickly. After several failed attempts by the US and Canadian vessels to break the blockade on Gaza by sea, a new effort now using the hashtag Air Flotilla saw hundreds of pro-Palestinian activists try to fly into Ben Gurion Airport on Friday, only to get turned away. Now right here, this is one of the tweets from Amuna in Paris, who has spent much of her Monday at the Air France offices in Paris, as you can see right here, with 50 other activists that are trying to get refunds for tickets that they were denied access to board on Friday. Now, this is a better shot. You see police gathering in front of the Air France office, which closed. When they tried to buy new tickets, they were told that there were too many people at the same time trying to fly to Israel. Now, I'm going to go ahead. This is another photo that she shared. Meanwhile, as she's sharing these photos and live tweeting, Israeli authorities said that they actually used Facebook in order to compile a blacklist of pro-Palestinian activists with hundreds of names. And as you can see, Amuna is telling us Israel's given a blacklist with names of 342 activists, which they compiled using Facebook and Twitter, as I said, to basically keep people off of these flights. This is again in Israel on the day of. Hundreds of Israeli security personnel were basically called to monitor the passenger arrivals. There was an uproar and lots of media there. And some of those that are arrested or that have been arrested have actually said that they were exposed to very harsh conditions while being interrogated. You know, one top tweet on this issue using another hashtag, which you can use to follow this story, is right here, Flotilla. Max Blumenthal saying, my advice to Flotilla and Flotilla 2 activists, repeat, 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 just like those in Tahrir right now. So if you want to find out more about this story, you can go to our website. We have an article called Flying into Detention, which looks at accusations that Israel may have overreacted to what some are calling a simple flying by activists. So this is just one of many stories that you're feeding the stream with, but here are some others that we're watching.
rising price of popular Saudi milk brand Al Marai has led customers to organize a Gulf-wide boycott. The Riyadh-based dairy company, which turns out everything from yogurt and cheese to fruit juices, recently raised its price on fresh milk by about 14%. The company argues that the hike is needed to offset the increasing cost of production, including wages, feedstock, and packaging. But shoppers objected. If you take a look at my screen, you'll see one of a number of very strong statements that were made by Saudi consumers on social media platforms. And actually, if you take a look, there was a Facebook campaign that was begun. Now, we took this screenshot last Friday. You can see about 2,000 people were liking this particular page, which was calling for a boycott. However, just within the last few days since then, the number of people on that Facebook page have almost tripled. Now, the question is, did the boycott work? Well, it appears so. On Sunday, Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Commerce ordered prices to return to their July 1 levels, and on Monday, the company complied. What struck us about this campaign is how rapidly it gained ground in a country that is not known for public dissent. In June, we brought you a story about Saudi women campaigning for their right to drive. And this is actually not the only issue. These people were trying to bring attention to gender rights issues in the kingdom, but it's not the only protest that we've seen occurring recently. Last week, 20 people were arrested when a small group attempted to protest outside the Saudi Interior Ministry. These events are not the norm in Saudi Arabia and are even more significant because they took place after the Interior Ministry banned all protests in March. Now, we're going to have another guest joining us via Skype in just a minute, but I want to come back to you, Ahmed. You mentioned at the top of the show that change is coming too slowly for young people in Saudi Arabia. Can you speak to this particular issue?
Well, I think what you mentioned about how supposedly protests are banned, but there are people protesting, all these different things, showing you how there is change and the change is happening. It's just that it's happening on a small scale and on small steps, happening one at a time. But it is happening in one sense or another.
What are the risks that people are running when they stand up to protest when protest has been banned?
Well, I mean, as you say, the people who protested outside the Ministry of Interior last week, many of them have been arrested. The same thing with women who drove. Some of them were stopped by the police. One of them got a ticket. They had to sign pledges basically saying they're not going to drive again. So, you know, you are taking a risk when you protest in a place that is where protests are not allowed. But we're seeing that people are willing to actually take that risk, partly because they feel there is a need for change, and they're also inspired by all these revolutions happening around them in the region.
Well, I want to bring our Skype guest into this conversation. Joining us now via Skype is Aysam Al-Zamil, a Saudi blogger who's living in Dammam. Aysam, thank you. Welcome to the stream. Talk to us a little bit about this protest of Al Marai. Why this company and why now?
Hi, and thank you for having me on your show. Basically, there is no reason why it started now. It started suddenly by the social users on Twitter and Facebook. The company announced that they will be increasing the prices 2 weeks ago, I think. And there was no reaction toward the hike until some people raised the issue on Twitter. They shared some articles regarding the hike in prices. Also, there are so many articles replying to the company saying there is no justification, because the justification for the company for raising the prices was that there is an increase in the costs of production. But seeing their financial statement, it shows that the expenses has not increased. Actually, in 2 years, the expenses have decreased. The ratio of expenses over the revenue has decreased 1%.
Well, I actually want to get Ahmed's thoughts on this point as well, because we understand that in March, the Saudi government announced subsidies for dairy farmers, and they were subsidizing the cost of water and various other products to support their business. So the actual profit margins grew for these businesses. How does that play into the response of the people to the subsequent price hikes?
That's one of the main reasons why people were very angry about this, and they reacted very strongly on social media. And this is one point that Aysam actually pointed on and talked about in detail on his blog, about how the dairy companies are being helped by all these subsidies from the government for electricity and water, and because Saudi Arabia is a very hot country. It's very difficult to actually have a dairy farm there where you have to air condition the cows and the farm.
Well, and actually, if you look at my screen, we've got a vision of what actually it takes to have a farm, a dairy farm in Saudi.
It's a very costly process to actually do that, and without all these subsidies, these companies will not be able to actually be profitable. And well, these companies are now making huge profits, but even with that, they're willing to hike the prices for consumers. No wonder consumers are angry.
We have a tweet coming in from Mosterlenk asking if there's an alternative education movement in Saudi Arabia, such as homeschooling or any of this. And the reason I bring this up is because just on a broader level, even we were joking that a lot of the reasons people are citing for why there are protests in Saudi Arabia is because people have nothing to do. Apparently, the age group of 15 to 24, there's a 40% unemployment rate. How does that play in? How important is it, the unemployment?
Let's actually get Isam, so your response to that.
What was the question?
Is the fact that so many people, 40% of people aged 15 to 24 are unemployed, playing into this spirit of protest that we're seeing? Or is it just the Arab revolutions in spring?
It could be a factor. Nobody can be sure about the factors, but I'm sure that the internet has the highest impact on giving people chance to have some advocacy for some movements. Spreading the news, sharing interests. Unemployment could be a factor. It's not a huge problem yet, but I'm not sure if it's the main factor or the only factor.
Yeah, this is important. This is something that I want to emphasize, is that we have seen the dairy companies a few years ago hike their prices, and they did not face this kind of protest because social media was not as widely popular and available at the time. But now, whenever a company like that makes such a step, they should be ready to be faced with large protests online. And this protest online is making them now think again about taking such a step in the future.
Do you think that this could actually lead to broader protests on more kinds of issues? Is there a culture of protest developing?
I think the internet is helping people to first know their rights, that they have legal rights that they can demand and try to work for them. And at the same time, it's helping them organize and communicate when there is a shared cause to actually advance it and work on it together.
I just very quickly want to mention that we did reach out to the Al Mara'i company on several occasions over the past couple of days, and we have heard no response via email and phone. So it's important that we give them the opportunity to.
Now, Isam, let's come back to you. I'm curious, as we're looking at what's happening with the Arab revolutions, what's happening with this particular social media revolution, what kind of change do you think is realistic in Saudi Arabia in the coming year or so?
That's a very hard question to ask. Nobody can be sure, but the most important thing is to raise awareness on common rights, basic rights, difference of basically understanding freedom in its right context. So mainly awareness could be the most important thing to raise among the youth. But what could happen or how it could happen, this is something nobody can know.
Ahmed, you get the final word. What's your hope for the future?
I hope that change will come, that our country and our citizens will, at some, in the future, enjoy their rights of freedom and justice and democracy like the rest of the world.
Isam, thank you so much for joining us. Ahmed, that's a wonderful point to leave on. Ahmed, thank you as well. You can join the rest of this conversation at stream.aljazeera.com. We'll be talking about some other salient issues. Remember that you can also be a part of our pre-show every day at 19:25 GMT. Join the conversation using the hashtag AJStream. We will see you online.